is top screen. Alright, greetings everybody! Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, March 22nd, 2025. You're having a great day, I hope you are, and I hope that you are ready to dive into some very interesting topics today, as, wow. I feel like it's not like a super busy week of topics, but there's some things in here that are interesting to discuss. So, yeah. Of course, joining me today is Wyrm, who has been joining me a lot lately. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. How would you classify your week to kind of start out with, just to keep things a little bit of a light banter before we dive into topics?
Work has been pretty terrible. Not because of like there's been a lot of work, but I just feel like I don't know. There's just been like this mood that, you know, like my boss has been in this mood lately, and it's just been like terrible.
That can happen, that kind of thing. Where you can have this mood in a position. I understand that.
Yeah, so it's just been kind of annoying to be at work.
I feel like my week has just ended up being a little chaotic, which I can deal with, but it's always kind of feels annoying, you know? Because then, like, you're always rushing at other things. So, hopefully, later next week, and maybe, you know, the mood will lighten up a little bit with your work. We can only hope.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So, why don't we dive into our topics to start out today. We can always kind of hop back to some chatting about the week a little later, because we do have some very interesting things on the news side of stuff. I guess we can start with the latest release of Secret Lairs, because these include what we were talking about a little bit, the SpongeBob Secret Lairs.
Talked about this a tiny bit last week, and I guess they're finally released.
Yeah, they're finally out now. Along with a few other ones. We don't really get into those financial things. Like, at least it looks like the basic SpongeBob one is being 7 cards, and they are just reskins. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's fine in a lot of ways. Reskins, I don't mind it. Not a fan of that. They also have a bunch of, then they have the one that's all memes. They have a secret lair that's just memes. They have one that's just 10 lands. They're a little bit better. And that's the collection of SpongeBob-related stuff. 3 of them coming out in this. Yeah. They're not unique cards, I don't mind that, but also, like, I'm sorry, the entire Secret Lair that's just memes is just, it kind of hurts my soul a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Then they got a really weird one in... It's neat, but they basically have unnecessarily reversible cards because they grow up so fast, and it's images of, like,
I love
the
this.
dragons as wormlings. It is adorable! But I don't know why it, like... Couldn't they have been, like, separate cards? Why'd they have to be flip cards? You definitely have to put them in a sleeve or something if you're going to play with them.
Yeah. But, honestly, if I were into Magic, I'd probably actually get this one, just because...
You can just see them as,
it's
like,
adorable. I love the adorable dragons.
They're adorable wormling form and then adult form. And then, you know, it's like, we were tiny and cute once, and then we became horrible oppressors of the planet.
As it should be.
They also have, I guess, I don't know what Garden Buds is supposed to be, like, art style wise. They've got that one. I don't think any of these cards are also, like, valuable, I'm going to say, Garden Buds, because I know Elvish Reclaimer, Harrow, and Horn of Greed, I don't think they are. So, like, I don't know about World Shaper or Ashaya, Soul of the World. But still, I don't understand this art style. It's a style. So,
Sure. I don't... Yeah.
Adorable dragons, adorable. I'll give you that one. The SpongeBob stuff, kind of half annoying sometimes. The meme stuff, I'll give you that one.
It's better than their meme cards. Those
True.
are just stupid.
Yes, they were. So I don't know.
But not much better. Like, if the meme cards were a 1, these would be a 2 out of 100.
Yeah. They also then have, I guess, tragic romance, which I don't know because, like, story-wise, I don't know if these, like, these beings are, like, together at all. Like, Kalia, I don't know if she's actually met Strictrix at all. But, you know, they're hanging out. And then the Angel and the Demon are kind of neat, too. But, like, I'm just curious as the story there. Was it ever in the cards, or they felt like they could do these two together? I don't know.
I mean, sure. Why not?
I think Strictrix is a valuable card, and so same with Kalia. So I can say that off the top of my head. Kalia was originally one of the Commander Precons, and Strictrix is a pretty valuable dragon in sets came from. I got this one that's basically that would be
old school cartoon.
Yeah, like
cartoon.
30s, 40s. Is that getting into that age? Like original Looney Tunes / Tom and Jerry. Like one of them is definitely
even honestly, it's even supposed to be older. It's like definitely the ones that like were originally in black and white, like the 30s.
And then they got like the they went from black and white to color, and so they're like the Technicolor or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's not my style, but I don't think it's terrible of a style.
Yeah. I'm just not sure what, like, at this point, I just feel like, what are half these secret layers supposed to be, you know?
Then there's Pick'em and Stick'em, which are a bunch of cards and stickers. We thought we were done with stickers after they were very unpopular in the unset that was, standard legal, or no, modern legal. But no. Still around, apparently.
So the idea is you can put the stickers on them. Yeah, that's dumb. I'm gonna say, these stickers probably aren't as bad as some other ones, because some of the other stickers, like, actually, like, mechanically did stuff in the set that came out. So I don't know why we just have stickers then. Well, if you look at the ones, like, the ones above, it's like, okay, that one's missing a face, and they've got things like a little tongue and a hat and the little masks and stuff, and then you've got the person holding a sword with nothing there. It's like, okay, you can do the sword or the fish, or it's supposed to, or
are we giving the crab gauntlet a cowboy hat?
Maybe. I mean, so I think the idea is you could decide. I don't know why you would do deface your cards like this, but. And the treasure one, you can put like the skull or the cat or something in there, you know?
Claw! Thanks, Momo. You're not wrong. Oh god, it's Thunder Junction already again. It's just they're putting everybody in cowboy hats. You can do it yourself.
So yeah, that's my thought on this, but like, they're primed to have stickers put on them, but I'm just like, why would you?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it. Sure, but why?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. And then there's just the Secret Lair class of 87. I don't understand this was...
They're supposed to be those old school, like, bad yearbook photos.
I can see it, and then, like, on the back, because they're flip cards, it has, like, a favorite food, a quote, and then, like, the actual abilities, I guess, of, like, card text. It's a style.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like
Back when they let you wear a, a dinosaur costume to your school photo.
I'm not gonna lie. At very least, these are creative for some of them. Even though they are very weird, they feel creative to some degree, Or, like, some of these are just an art style. Like the Pick 'em and Stick 'em, that is a particular artist doing all those. That is, what's the name here? Rian Gonzalez. So, Look, I'm not gonna lie, the entire SpongeBob, it just kind of... it sours this entire thing for a little bit.
I mean, I'm just getting, like, kind of tired of these. It's like, okay, you're putting these out, like, every time. And every time they're, like, $40. Or, like, 30 to $40. It's like... Man, I'm curious who's going to buy the SpongeBob one. Like, let's be real. I have a feel they're going to probably sell out, but...
Yeah. SpongeBob shows up in a full set. I mean, because that's funnier. I mean, that's more akin to the destruction and death of magic, At least that's the way we know it. It probably won't go away, but, like, the current area of it might kind of alter significantly with that one. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's important to talk about, like, the thing for Secret Lairs, because they are, like, a big selling point icon currently, other than just the sets. But, yeah, I feel like I don't know where it's going with this entire thing, I hope they make some kind of better decisions, but I doubt it. There's one other thing related to Secret Lairs I did want to kind of point out here, because I saw an article about this.
Dragons are adorable. I went up and started looking at those again. Anyway.
They are very cute. I very much admit that. And, like, that is definitely a little bit of, like, I like those cards that way, but I'm also, like, they are just, you would have to choose a side to play, I guess. Because they're just the same card, only, like, at different times. Do you want some to be the adorable small ones, or do you want them to be the menacing big ones?
Man, if I really just never if it wasn't for the fact that I just never wanted to get into, like, actually buying Magic cards, I honestly kind of want to buy this. But I kind of want to buy this set.
Yeah.
But no, I have better things to spend $30 on.
I understand that, unfortunately. But we do have a update on apparently, because they're supposed to be bringing some Secret Lairs to retail, we know that whatever one they are doing will be involving Marvel characters. Okay, I'm going to guess it's probably going to come out around the same time as the Spider-Man set that's supposed to come out this year. I'm predicting that. It logically makes sense. But we don't know also if there's going to be a direct sale, or, like, as this article says, a special event prize or something like that. If you're doing, like, a Friday Night Magic or something like that. Or one of the other various events that are at local game stores.
Or something they're only going to sell at a con or something.
Yeah. We don't know. We know it is going to, the FLGS stores. They're, like, local game stores that are, was it certified, favored? I think it's a favored local game stores or something like that. I never remember their, acronym. The word acronym just was escaping me from there. So, it's... again, don't know much about it. Hope it's fine.
Friendly local game store.
But, speaking of Magic, and I do want to at least bring this one up, because if not, Wizards won't talk about it much, because they don't, and are spending all their advertisement budgets on the next sets, the Tarkir Dragonstorm set. We know the mechanics of it. They've introduced that. Hey, I like Tarkir. It was a cool thing with basically, like, these, I guess you could say very Mongolian-coded people to a degree, but, like, Asian-coded people for, like, Central Asia, that region. Versus, like, in a plane that had a lot of dragons and stuff in it, had interesting dragon stories and stuff. Very cool storyline. The original one involved weird time travel shenanigans. Don't ask. It's a long story. But this is supposed to be just set in the future a little bit after shit's been, going down. Anyway, each of the 5 groups have their own mechanic.
Wizards does great dragon art.
That's the thing is, they do good dragon art. And a lot of the art in the cards is very good. Let's see here. So basically, we get I don't remember the color breakdown of the groups. I'm not going to remember that off the top of my head. Basically, each of the groups is 3 colors. It's usually a paired color and only enemy colors if the magic pie wheel at the back of the cards. So one, 2 of them that match, and then one is across away from it. So Abzin has their Endure ability, which gains counters or creates a creature when it comes to play. Jessica gives you a bonus if you cast a second spell each turn. Sultai basically gives you an ability in the graveyard that you can trigger. Mardu has, when a creature attacks, you create a warrior token with it that sacrifice then. Hemmer has Harmonize, which you can cast it again, a spell again from the graveyard and then exile afterwards. There's Omens, which are kind of another one of the adventure or storytelling type double spell. It's sometimes a creature, but sometimes a spell thing that we've seen. Like the style of stuff that's showing up in the Omen started with the God. I'm trying to remember the fairy tale one started it, but they've done a bunch of different versions of it, and this is another one that you can have an Omen instead. They also have a Behold mechanic, which is revealing stuff from your hand. Hey, that's been around, but is specifically a lot of times dragons. And they got some mono hybrid mana colors, which are kind of interesting, where you can either use colorless or certain colors. That's pretty interesting. Oh, and surveil. That's very popular too. It's got a lot of mechanics. I'm going to say that. That's one of the things about this set. It's got a lot of mechanics. I'm not going to lie, it makes me feel like this should have been more than one set. Because originally, when you have a lot of mechanics like that, you usually spread out the story and mechanics over a bunch of sets. So you get more time with it and more cards with them. And they aren't just a little bit of well, you can have a couple of things. But I think some of these are returning, if I can remember, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check some of them. Like Surveil's back, Here, what are the mechanics in that quickly? I can look up things and say words about what was in it. Atlas Proust, Delgrade, Ferocious. So I guess it's actually kind of... Okay, so I guess there are versions of the old stuff, maybe. Or new things of them. So, it's interesting. I like the concept here. I was a fan of it. I'm glad it's back. I just would hope it had more hype than it does. Everybody's excited for Final Fantasy, which is coming out after this, and it's an exorbitant price.
Well, yeah, they know that that's going to sell more, so they're going to push it more.
Fortunate.
It's
going to sell to a lot of collectors and not players.
Yeah.
Game first and a collector's item second. Oh, you're not remembering that? Well.
Oh, no, they haven't. Oh, clearly not. They've been pushing collector's items for basically as long as they've been back into doing this with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And, yeah.
So I got 3 articles here talking about our next topic. And again, I like all the mechanics here. I kind of think it looks like a good set. It does look like a good it's sort of like we get stupid sets and then we get good sets, and I just want them all to be good sets. I don't want cowboy hats or detective hats, or stuff like that. So, yeah. Alright, Sigil. It's very well positively
Yeah.
dead. So Project Sigil. So here's the first article, which I came across from Ian World, where we now know that they've laid off about 90% of the team that was working on it.
So this was supposed to be the downloaded one that's like 3D, right? That was supposed to be
That they
higher
just had like a
quality.
beta for. They just they just did. I think they just did have some kind of beta for it. The beta was made public 3 weeks ago. According to this article here, they had 3 people out of 33 left. That's not a lot of big team. And then there was this follow-up that will put in the chat. People see. Where there is a email that comes out about it.
I honestly just have no idea what Hasbro's doing. It seems like they're just firing everyone constantly. And I'm just like, you're not going to have a company in like another year. It's going to be a bunch of CEO and execs just with a bunch of AI tools. I mean, I guess that's probably what they want.
Yeah, it sounds like they're planning to transition Sigil its VTT to D&D Beyond feature with no future developments. They laid off 30 staff, and this is an internal email that we got a copy of. So I'll read this one here. You can link on it too if you want to see it. Dear team, I want to share an important update regarding Sigil. After several months of alpha testing, we concluded our aspirations for Sigil as a larger standalone game with distinctive monetization path will not be realized. Okay. As such, we cannot maintain a large development effort, and most of the Sigil team will be separated from the company this week. We are proud of what Sigil team has developed and want to make sure the fans and players of the D&D Beyond can use it. As and we will transition Sigil to a D&D Beyond feature. We will maintain a small team to sustain it and release products already developed at no additional cost to users. To those moving on as a result of the decision, we will provide robust support, including severance packages, 2024 bonuses, career placement service, and internal opportunities as possible. And then there's another segment about praising the team, basically be like, "You did a good job! Great!" I don't know. So, yeah. We got an email that says they're just, like, transitioning it. They've laid off a bunch of their workforce. It's kind of...
Honestly...
It's dead, but not dead, because it's going to be there at D&D Beyond, but just nothing more coming.
I mean, honestly, this makes full sense, given how much they just half-assed D&D 2024. Because, like, apparently this was originally supposed to be released with that, and it wasn't, and then, you know, obviously that needed a lot more time to cook, so clearly, I mean... If you wanted a popular game to be crunched down into an impossible time frame, did that to a game, I could see why it failed. Basically, a game quality item.
Yeah, it's
destroying.
I have one more article that has a little bit more information on it. And I mentioned they thought it through and simply realized it wouldn't be profitless and so profit. You know, that could very well be the point. That it wouldn't be profitable as its own thing. I can definitely agree on that one. Cause
yeah, I honestly think that the let's be real, the VTT they're developing on D&D Beyond is probably like if you had to pick one, it makes sense that they'd pick that one.
It's
these
cheaper.
are two separate things.
Yeah.
It's not as complex. It's not a whole 3D thing where you're gonna have to supply 3D models constantly. I mean, they take a lot of work. 2D art, you can just slap a token around an existing picture and call it a day.
And they just might not have been confident that would have had the success in the monetization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, and I'm actually was surprised they tried Sigil. Like, Sigil was a cool idea. And I would have loved it to be like a generic VTT. Like, if they made Sigil as a generic VTT, I think it would have been a huge success. Even if it was they don't have to sell their product with it. They could make money off other people. Do what Steam did. Steam makes games, yes, but Valve makes games, yes, but you know, they also made something that works for everyone. You know, bolstering the video game concept as a whole.
Even think about like Roll20. They have all the things in their store that people are selling there. They get a cut of that stuff, you know, of all the art assets and stuff, and maps and stuff they're selling and putting together there. Yeah.
So, like, they really could have gone very far with this and, like, had a really impressive, like, thing. But I know probably the biggest limitation was that they wanted to be D&D only. Because they've been very, like, D&D lately and Wizards and Hasbro has been very exclusionary towards other game systems. I mean, that's why they almost did the whole, the OGL debacle. It's because they wanted to control everything.
Now, granted, we have seen a lot more things that are third-party stuff coming up on D&D Beyond, but usually they are, this is a 5e compatible thing. You want to check it out? You want to stick with 5e, 5.5, thumbs up. We can. I feel like that's what it is. They're doing deals with a lot of these groups and things and like alternate versions of D&D that we are seeing up on Beyond now. That's neat. But again, it feels reactionary. And Momo said it right. This is very reactionary, and I think it's the problem with this entire thing is it's a reactionary mindset they got, and unfortunately, I think that's a very Hasbro thing. And you know,
lately at least,
well,
the past few years,
it's also a very big thing in the video game industry. Think about that, and remember, we've talked about how some people that have been in big positions within Wizards and Hasbro have been veterans of that industry. In that industry. Think about it. Someone comes up with something, a big, great idea. Everybody piles on it. Which is not necessarily great, because really they can't recreate that original magic that the one person did. So a lot of stuff in the big AAA industry is repeat, recycle.
Yeah. That's why there's Assassin's Creed 567 out, you know, next week, you know? Or I don't know if it's coming out, but this is like, it's like...
you are not wrong, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know, it being a specific just D&D 5e one, it was, I think, a death knell in a lot of ways for monetization. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, how are you gonna are you gonna require people who make modules for your game to like add their own to like force them to hire art assets? It's like, no, you can't make a D&D extent module unless you have all of the 3D assets for our VTT. It's like, yeah.
There was, like, I think deep in there, a core of a good idea to begin with, but it just ended up, like, poorly monetized in a lot of ways. Now, honestly,
yeah. Like, I thought this was really cool. I'm gonna be honest. I really thought the idea of this VTT was really cool. But I honestly, from the beginning, was questioning their whole, like, okay, but this is gonna just be for a 5e, so why would I play it? You know? And it probably won't even be easy to house rule stuff, you know? Because it's going to be very, like, video gamey.
It's also the thing that it's hard to see the numbers and understand the numbers, but a lot of people are still playing 5e. But 5.5, there are some people playing it. It has not been as, like, much jump on that as with a lot of other things. And a lot of other people are either doing still normal 5e, maybe grabbing some stuff from 5.5, or jumping ship to other stuff. The community is splitting in a lot of ways from just being this core aspect of it, D&D. So maybe they can see that the numbers are on the wall for something like this because they don't have that support they had pre-OGL debacle. Like, if this was before then, sure, they probably could have run away with it, you know?
Yeah, I don't see, you know, like, what Chris Cox is even, like, thinking with D&D right now. It was such a huge success. Then he fired, like, everybody related to everything, and then was all like, oh, it's sucking now. What's going on? I can't believe firing the people who made this thing a success didn't work at making me more money. Like, I don't get where his brain is right now.
Also, not screwing on everybody that wants to be involved with it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we'll just sell out to a gambling site that's responsible for, you know, like 60% of gambling addiction in the US right now. I don't know if that's the right number, but it was a pretty high number.
I also was kind of like, this wasn't for me, but I didn't want to see them fail, because it was an interesting idea. You know, a 3D DTT did sound cool.
No, it really did, and I wanted to see where it went, and I totally would have probably bought it just to figure out how it worked and mess around with it. But
Magic is very gotcha. I mean, that's why like all the big content creators just yell about behind singles, because yeah, like I do like buying some packs of cards, but usually I do with a specific purpose. You know, like just kind of that walk back there to one of those comments. I would buy a box of cards and use that to make decks from that set. You know, that's what I do from it. Because then you have a lot of like commons and uncommons and some rares from that set, and you can have a themed one around the mechanics of that. Like a couple of sets like that. I like doing that. But if I wanted to collect the entire thing, I would just use it. But yeah, no. It isn't gotcha enough, and I don't know what else to say. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's be real. Like, we had brought up, like, I wonder how they're gonna monetize this, like, at least twice. I remember two times questioning it.
Mm-hmm. There's been questions floating around.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway.
You know,
Sigil's
too bad doing
Sigil Dead.
something cool for the sake of doing something cool isn't very pro shareholder.
Even though it could be incredibly profitable in the long run. Look at Steam.
I mean, that they would have to go in with the idea of making it multi, but they weren't going to.
Well, they were never going to, because, like, you know, Hasbro would never allow it, nor, you know.
I mean, Hasbro has this weird idea that D&D is the only TTRPG you'll ever need, and I don't know why, because it's clearly no one who has done TTRPG stuff has ever said that.
They were in a great position and have burned them. Again, it's one of those things is...
were they the lead? Yes.
Yeah, because 5e was relatively simple and very, you know, core of a building block, you know. It's the greatest of the cover, so it might be true. But that doesn't make you the only one people will play, and I'm not going to lie, all that third-party stuff isn't D&D. You know, if I'm playing the Lord of the Rings 5e game, it's not D&D. It's got the basic, you know, it's got like a skeleton that matches it, but that's about it. Yeah, they literally called themselves winner of all TTRPGs, and in doing so, became the loser.
Yeah.
Anyway. I could rant about this a little longer, but I think we should move on. Farewell, Sigil. There was a cool idea in there. Never went anywhere. You know, I guess you can play dried husk of a remnant on D&D Beyond now for like a price. If you really want to. So this is one that I'm both kind of like happy about and kind of annoyed about, because I have to look how long 5th edition Werewolf the Apocalypse has been out. I'm curious about that one. Werewolf 5e release.
I mean, I know it's 2023 or 2020. It's 2022, 2023, something around.
August 2023. So,
nailed it.
The main opponent of the werewolf in the story, that's the thing they fight against, that's the Tide of the Apocalypse, the Servants of the Wyrm, we're finally getting a book in it after 2 years. I'm really happy they're getting a book on it, because anybody that's a veteran player will probably go, hey, these are the things we would want, because these are like the main opponents. What do you fight against, each other, or like society then? Which is not a werewolf story. Werewolf stories tend to be combat-y environments.
First I want to comment, okay, so it wasn't that I was returning to Werewolf, I was curious about that. No. But also, Chronicles of Darkness did a cool thing with what they did. Chronicles 1E had a it was versus other werewolves. There was the Forsaken, which were werewolves who basically turned against Luna, and were trying to recruit other werewolves, and they were actually like forcing people to become werewolves in weird ways and stuff, and that was the whole thing. So there's a whole plot line related to that in Chronicles. And in the second Chronicles 2e, they turned away from that a little bit and went to something called the Itagam, which are spirits from space.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, like,
supposedly Luna, you know, the moon itself, keeps creatures from beyond space away, because they're super dangerous and deadly. But when people started, you know, sending out satellites and blah blah blah, some things started to hitch back. And that would like bringing back really, really dangerous spirits.
I'm gonna say, before this book, I thought that 5e Werewolf was basically just they wanted to make their own version of Chronicles of Darkness, Werewolf the Forsaken.
Okay.
I have been reading up more and more on the lore that they have in 5e for the werewolf tribes. They don't feel a lot of times like the old tribes. They feel like something different. There is like a little bit of like, again, it's like what I was saying with the Lord of the Rings 5e. There's the skeleton in there. There's a little bit of the bones, but that's about it. You got some of those bones in there. The rest you've pulled out and basically gutted it and replaced it.
I really do like the way Chronicles went about things, because it's like they did obviously turn away from a lot, like everything in the original ones were like, oh, the apocalypse is coming. It's like literally, you know, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Vampire was about like, you know, the Masquerade was about, you know, people finding out and destroying, you know, them, and there's also some other stuff, and it's like everything was apocalypse based.
I think the thing is, when we got to Chronicles, it was a very big shift in the way that they told stories and a lot of things, and I think it was a jarring shift, but having gone through time and looking back...
But they did it well.
That's the thing I was going to say. I don't mind those stories and the way they're told. They are different games, though, and it's good that they separated them out. I do prefer some of the other ones, like the two changelings. I thought, because they're the opposite of each other, I thought that was really cool. You know, That was my favorite of all of them. But, like, and the vampire one, because I was the biggest vampire fan, that's the one that loved me the worst. But the werewolf one, I thought that had some neat ideas in it from reading up on the Forsaken. You know,
I'm gonna be honest. The vampire one for Chronicles has always been considered the weakest.
That makes sense then. That's why
among Chronicles fans.
Yeah, the vampire one always it very much rung me the wrong way, and I guess it's because it was just a very weak thing in a lot of ways. But getting back to this,
Strix, which are other evil death spirits which don't like the vampires, and it's just kind of like, eh.
It's like, if you are a classic player that wanted to get into 5e, and maybe you're just using mechanical, which I've gone a little bit into mechanics. There are some things about mechanics I don't like, but there are some things that I think are okay. You know, I'm talking about like gameplay-wise. It doesn't feel as bad gameplay-wise as some of the changes that were in Vampire 5th Edition. I don't like the way that they do the blood and like the frenzy stuff in 5e Vampire. Reading up on it and hearing stories from people. This doesn't sound as bad for some of those mechanical changes. Okay, cool. But and I don't mind parts of the idea of some of the story, but there were important things that were part of that entire story of, like, if you're losing the apocalypse, what are you losing to? The Wyrm, Banes, Pentax, Black Spiral Dancers, the things that you have been fighting against that were bringing the apocalypse the entire time.
What are the agents of the Wyrm anyway?
Okay, long story short, there's Guy. Guy kind of creates everything, blah, blah, blah. Guy had 3 spirits under her which managed it. The Triad, which were the Weaver, the Wyrm, and the Wild. The Wyrm, the Weaver decided to capture the Wyrm in a net, in its web, and then the Wyrm went insane. And there's a lot more to that than that kind of thing. But basically, the Wyrm is entropy.
But what are the agents of the Wyrm? That's what I'm curious. Like, are they creatures, or is it a type
mixture
of spirit?
Of that.
Is it?
Okay. Black Spiral Dancers are a group of Garus/werewolves. Garus, the term for it in the game. That were corrupted to the Wyrm.
Same in Chronicles.
So so like the ones you were talking about that were kind of corrupted to go against it. They're the same way then. Black Spirals are corrupted ones. Banes are spirits Wyrm spirits, basically because it's a spiritual thing and there's a spiritual realm. Banes are creatures from that spiritual realm that serve the Wyrm. Okay. And they do also say that in this book they're going to talk about Agents of the Weaver and Wild, the two other major groups of the Triad here, because they're not in great conditions ever and can also have some problems, but it's the difference between too much growth, like it's rebirth. Wild would be like things being born, a lot of growth, a lot of nature and stuff like that, chaos a little bit too. The Weaver is like order, so things like that, and then the Wyrm was supposed to be like entropy, and it was supposed to be like a triad of like creation, order of that creation, and then falling to eventually everything eventually dies kind of thing. That's the triad there. So they've all kind of gone a little crazy. But anyway, Wyrm still wants to destroy everything, and it's the apocalypse. And Fomori are basically like horrible super mutants that were created by Pentex, who's like a corporation that, they're basically Captain Planet villains. They're just trying to destroy the world because they think that by aligning with the Wyrm, whatever comes after the end of the world, they would survive. Maybe, I don't know, or they'd find themselves presenting it, but also like greed. It's weird, There is a level of disconnect with like Pentex there. Maybe it's just that they're horribly corrupted and insane too.
Yeah.
But they're like a big corporation that's basically like they're the kind of they're comically evil in some of the older storylines. But it's kind of like haha, I'm dumping toxic waste here just because I could. Haha, polluting this forest. But I you can tell better stories than that, and people have. But that's kind of like the original idea of things. So these are the things that Wyrms tended or Garou tended to fight against as main opponents. Granted, there were other things too, other creatures from the world of darkness, vampires, mages, and stuff like that. Maybe you had to deal with spiritual things, where you had to go to the spirit world and stuff like that, and deal with things there. Eternal quests for honor and glory. Sometimes those battles between tribes and groups could occur, but they always were underlined with, well, we gotta be ready to fight the Wyrm. So
yeah, there does need Werewolf does need a bad guy to a degree, in my opinion. Even if it's because in general, werewolves are supposed to be like killing machines, so they're hard to kill. They need something equally powerful to fight against.
It's very much a difference between the way that I think it's like a reflection that I don't know that the people that are doing these 5e books understand these placings of World of Darkness. I think it's kind of like they're reading them, but not understanding what's supposed to be going on in a lot of these stories and stuff, too. We're seeing these mechanics and not understanding how to express them and what people really liked about mechanics, I feel like that sometimes, too. I don't know. Again, they do some really interesting things, and they have some great things here and there, but they're just, it's random. So I'm happy they're doing this book. It just is also, we're not getting it till September, and, it's been 2 years for those people that have played.
I mean, I'd have to look at the Werewolf 5e book, but, yeah, it depends. Because,
I haven't read through the entire
maybe
book.
because I know, Chronicles, you may be like, oh, what do they have in Chronicles? And I told you, it's their first book had this one focus, but even beyond that, they've had hosts, spirit-ridden humans, spirits themselves.
There might be some things that are in the W5 core book that I've missed, because again, I've really read excerpts from it that I've needed to read for various things, or I looked through a few things here and there, reading up on some of the basic character creation mechanics and stuff like that, but I haven't really dived deep into it, just because it's sort of like when you're reading something and you're like, I don't like this, and it's sort of it just makes it hard to sit down there and read through all of it, just because again, some of the stuff just feels so tone deaf, for old people. That are in this entire thing. Some of it does. Not all of it. And again, updates aren't necessarily bad. Just, I feel either respect the old stuff or make it something else entirely. If you want something else new and entirely different, that's fine. They did it with the Chronicles of Darkness. You could have just done that.
Yeah.
And it's such a difference because, like, as much as, like, story-wise I disagree with something in Vampire, and mechanically I disagree with something in Vampire, Vampire felt like it actually respected the material. You know? Which Werewolf doesn't feel like that. Even Hunter, who is like a kind of different type of Hunter in a lot of ways, still respects the ideas and the core beliefs in there. And you can still be like a special powered Hunter if you want. It's just an option in there that's not a normal part of it. And that's, I think, is fine too. Like, you know, the dude were very weird and stuff too. And maybe all the shit that happened around the 2000s and into the early 2000s got rid of all the imbued. But the people that, like, they were, like, you know, working with that weren't superpowered are still around. Stuff like that. You know, that might be a neat storyline. I could rant about this longer, but I shouldn't.
What are the imbued?
The imbued were the original Hunters from Hunter the Reckoning, the earlier editions, who had the weird sort of superpowers that they got. Because there was also like true faith, where if you were faithful enough in a religion, you could also gain powers and stuff too in World of Darkness.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like people could find abilities and stuff. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah. So you want some like stuff for your minis, some colors, because we got some new ones. Apparently, I just thought this was fun because, you know, we talked about some minis and stuff too. So why not talk about the paints people use for tabletop minis? There we go. So this is an article about AMP, I guess is the Atomic Mass Games is partnered with Monument Hobbies to bring paint, which is a kind of acrylic formula for it. So a bunch of new colors and stuff like that are, I guess, unique to these people, and has 2 sets of them. Cool. I don't paint minis, so I don't know a lot about like the good colors. But again, like this seemed like, you know, something that I should talk about. We're trying to dive into things like minis and Warhammer a little bit more. So, you know, they're going to be first sold at Adepticon in 2025. Which I feel like being called Adepticon, that might be Warhammer. Like,
yeah,
it
like
might
Adeptus
not be.
Mechanicus.
Yeah, it feels like it possibly is. And you know what? I get the feeling that's probably where most of the people are going to buy this for the miniatures. Probably some other people too. You know, Warhammer mini painting is a thing.
Looks, honestly, it does seem to honestly be very much. It's almost like a convention based on my quick look of their website. Also, wait, you said 2025 Adepticon?
According to the article, the console is first going to be sold at Adepticon in 2025. We'll be heading to stores in April 2025.
Yeah, so that's literally in 3 days is Adepticon, apparently. March
so
26th.
If you're at Adepticon in 3 days, buy this. Or wait till April if you're not going to be there to get these paints.
Yeah.
To get
It's literally next week.
Yeah.
So apparently it's like it almost seems to be more based around like actually painting of miniatures rather than like it is very Warhammer, but it's like there's some other gaming stuff, I guess. They do like a gaming contest and stuff, revealing Warhammer miniatures. Yeah, okay, so they do more than this. Sorry, I just quick glance. It was like all the things I saw were like painting related. I'm like, is it just this? No.
I mean, again, like, it's one of those things with painting and all that kind of stuff is the more colors and more options of colors you get, the more kind of creative things you do. Though, again, I'm not going to lie, the orange-yellow kind of looks like Cheese Whiz in the bottle.
That honestly doesn't say a lot. Like, when it comes to paint,
I know. Yeah.
It like, when you condense it, it could, like, and then when you paint, like, a thin coat, it looks very different. Mm-hmm. But I totally get, yeah, I agree, it kind of does look like Cheese Whiz.
With nacho cheese or something. I like it. It probably would definitely not be that color when you paint with it, but it just...
I mean, it probably would be close to it.
Yeah,
you know,
around that direction.
It just wouldn't be so vibrant.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's new paints to talk about there. Cool. Alright. So, I just put all these together because they're all on Humble Bundle right now. There are 4 currently going RPG bundles.
So just a side thing, yeah. So Adepticon, yeah, I guess it does have Warhammer stuff, but it seems to be just a miniature based. So it's basically like a wargaming convention.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll start with the first one on this list, which is Delta Green. The Delta Green, I don't know about this RPG.
It's so Delta Green is Call of Cthulhu. It's basically Call of Cthulhu, but more military focused. You're like military people going through Call of Cthulhu.
I see here.
It's also set more. Yeah, it's also set more in the Vietnam era.
Okay. So apparently, this is a bunch of stuff in this bundle, at least for
Vietnam War era. Vietnam has existed for a long time. Vietnam War was different.
Yeah, Vietnam. And also some BTP applications for their books and stuff. Looks like too. So you get those in the books and things to put on like BTP, like Roll20 and stuff, and found.
Yeah, it actually uses a very similar system. It was, I think it was like people liked Call of Cthulhu and like made their own version of it or something like that. It's actually yeah. So.
Okay, that makes sense. It's interesting.
It's got some similarities. It's got some real similarities.
So, that one's up for a bundle. That one's got about 18 more days. It's for direct relief. You're looking at that charity. Another one here. Again, because we got 4 of these that are apparently out right this time, is if you ever wanted to read the Dragonlance books, that I can cut that down the back end of that one. Let me just do that and make that entire thing a lot better. Because, there's a much more succinct thing there. I think I linked from their site and it gave me that. Thanks. Thanks. Anyway, this has the is that the seasons books? The summer, autumn, winter, spring. I think it's one of the bigger Dragonlance storylines that have been written, plus some of the other ones. Looks like a twin series and some other stuff like that. Again, this is one of those things. Is if you are unfamiliar with Dragonlance a lot, it has been a little bit nowadays, but really it's a older, another world setting from this past.
The Dragonlance setting. I'm actually in my in the game I play earlier in the day today. That I played earlier today. I'm playing a Tinker Gnome from Kryn, which is Kryn is the world where Dragonlance is on.
Yeah, and it's just a thing that a lot of the world, kind of like actually with Faerun, how a lot of like extra details in the world of Faerun were written by like the people like that did like the Dritz books, like R.A. Salvador and others that did a lot of books in it. This is another one where, unlike that one where there was also a lot of material that was set there in Faerun, Dragonlance did get some stuff set in it, but not as much as Faerun. So a lot of the books more built the setting a lot more. So this is definitely one, if you're interested in the setting and reading some stories about it, this would be really recommendable. And it's not a very expensive one. For $18, you get all 26 novels.
Yeah, sadly, it does. Only the written versions. They're like ebooks. No audiobooks for me. They have in the past done it where they like release both for certain things. It's kind of rare. I think it's rare, but I have seen it. Okay.
And this is for Room to Bleed as we charity for that. So if you're interested in Dragonlance books, might be a good chance to catch up and read on some of the classics that are.
And yet they don't cater to people who have reading disorders.
Okay. Sure.
Well, no, that's why I like audiobooks, is because I'm actually a slow reader. Because I actually have... It's not just dyslexia, I have like a whole reading disorder. It's totally separate. Gotcha. But I also have dyslexia, so...
So Goodman Games, the people that do Dungeon Crawl Classics and some material for 5e, are bringing you a book bundle of their materials. So this is a combination of both actual Dungeon Crawl Classics and some, I guess, some of their style of stuff for 5e, which are probably a lot more classic adventurous and stuff too.
Dungeon Crawl Classics, there are a lot of people who write modules for that, I've kind of noticed. I've been looking at modules lately.
Dungeon Crawl Classics is basically a D&D, but with some of the less bullshit. Not all of the less bullshit, but some of the less bullshit. You still will die a lot, but yeah.
Basically taking away the Gary Gygax type of adversarial GMing,
Yeah. So it still has that, like, crunchy, it's a deadly world, it's a hard world of a D&D that some people do like, but it is, it has updated to a degree in modern. It's cleaning up some of the issues with that's Dungeon Crawl Classics. So,
actually balancing things.
Yep. The World Central Kitchen for that charity, and it looks like 84 items for $40. And that does include, I guess, at least one physical item, it looks like. And the final one, which is an interesting one, which I kind of wanted to talk about too, is actually Pathfinder related, but also not Pathfinder. What I mean by that, it's third-party Pathfinder books. So I did. Excellent. I love how, I should just use the shortcut keys, for these things. But I don't. It's a terrible idea. Anyway, so these are, third-party material for Pathfinder. I think I'm going to guess second edition, but I can't tell. Usually it's second edition. It could be first edition, too. This is Kobold Press, Frog God Games are two of the ones that are in here. Basically, there are two big bundles in here, classic games and a bunch of other books that are part of it for the Children's Miracle Network. So, I like Kobold Press does a lot of great stuff. Frog God Games does a lot of great stuff. So this is, third-party stuff for those systems. For the system. We talk about... Oh, I didn't put it in there.
No, you didn't. I was about to say.
I was fixing... I accidentally deleted the link before putting it, and then when I went to get it again, I forgot to hit the enter button. I broke my brain by, breaking my stride there. A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there's some cool ideas here. I mean, the idea of doing, third-party stuff for it. Is it mostly 1E, though?
I am unsure. By looking at the logo, I think it's the 1E logo. Let me see.
Yeah. Well, no, that's... Well, hold on, I have to look.
Pathfinder usually says second. Well, it's very similar either way. Actually, let me take a look at one of these. Northland Saga Complete. Let me look up that book.
Well, the main okay, I see this. There's a slight difference, and that is the 2E logo. But I'm not sure. Or no, no, it's the 1E logo. Okay.
Northland Saga Complete came out in 2015. So that might be Pathfinder 1. I think 2015.
It shouldn't matter too much. It should be pretty easily adaptable to 2E.
Yeah, there's rules for that. You can look up if you want to adapt some of these things. But I do think
the rules are kind of vague. But I'm just saying, you generally can.
Yeah. But again, there's still some popularity in Pathfinder 1 and 2. Honestly,
there is still a lot. There's a lot of. I mean, even Mom was like, "Yeah, I don't want to learn 2E," but now he is. We force his hand.
I think the thing is, for 1E, it fills some of those mindset for some people that have been around since some of the older editions, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, stuff like that. It's the bridge between old editions and new editions. Pathfinder kind of led the way in a lot of ideas for things that we see in more modern gaming. Yes, it's still a vestibule of the ancient days, but it's kind of that in-between spot, in a lot of ways, I think. Certainly speaking, it's similar to, 5e had a lot of great ideas. They took them from 4e and Pathfinder, and then simplified everything. That's kind of what 5e did, if you really think about it. They played off each other. So, then that led to Pathfinder going in a completely different direction then, and being something original for a second, a little sort of. Yeah. So those are the Humble Bundles. If you want to check out all those, there's charities, and for a bunch of books. Normally when we have these, there's one of them, but apparently there was 4. There was another one that was there that I thought about talking about, but it was ending today, and probably around this time, so I'm like, I'm not going to talk about when it's ending. So, sometimes they just have a lot of role-playing books up there. Sometimes they have, none. And you just keep an eye on them. If you're looking for some good deals on role-playing books, and helping a charity. Just remember to allocate properly.
Yeah. Remember to adjust the donations, because they basically are generally most of it go to the publisher, and Humble takes a good chunk, and then a small amount goes to the charity. But they allow you to literally adjust how the money goes, so always remember to do that.
Yep.
My personal preference, minimum to Humble, and then half to publisher, half to, and then for the remaining, half to publisher, half to charity. That's what I like to do.
That sounds like a very standard good way to do it. But again, you could also mess around with it. Hey.
Yeah. No, do what you want. That is just what I like to do.
Yep. So we have got a little bit of update on the combo of Demiplane and Roll20, and apparently the public alpha has gone fairly well, and they're planning up an upcoming public beta now. So they're continuing forward on the connection values. I think we talked a little bit about the that they're adding kind of Demiplane to Roll20. This is probably the biggest actual update to material in Roll20 we've heard in a while, So yeah. Roll20 at least they're finally innovating some stuff,
They have been for a while. They've been trying. So basically, so what happened, they were the only good choice outside of basically really expensive options for honestly 10 years, or 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure. And so they literally just stagnated. They had no reason to improve. They always say competition drives progress. That's why you don't want monopolies. Although we have a bajillion, because monopolies have been more and more narrowly. Anyway, I'm not getting into that.
Late-stage capitalism.
Yay. But yeah, so they've been actually really trying to improve lately. The biggest problem they currently have is they don't have a good way of balancing the maintenance of their existing stuff, and so they're really being held back right now, and that's why they're having a hard time proceeding, by the fact that they have to keep integration with all of the old systems people have made. You can't just break an old sheet because it's not being updated anymore.
I see that. I can see that could be a problem.
Yeah, so there's definitely some issues there.
So, games currently that are using the combo of Demiplane and Roll20 are Starfinder Pathfinder, Marvel Multiverse RPG, Cyberpunk Red, Hope Reborn, Alien RPG, Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. They will be adding Fallout RPG's core rulebook. When Fallout Nexus launches on Demiplane, and they are planning more. Things like Starfinder 2e is supposed to be on there. Their Demiplane character sheet can link to the Roll20 game. So this will probably help a lot in character sheets and stuff too. This is the kind of thing that would yes, I'm going to be using Foundry for the new game. But depending on how things go with Foundry, and how I learn, and if I like it more, cool. But maybe, 20 can win me back with some new Pathfinder 2e remastered sheets that actually work and some better things. I don't know. They can compete for me. I am not set on one BTT. I'll say that.
I'm not either. Personally, my big thing would basically be right now. I'd probably bounce between Foundry and Roll20, just because Foundry is a buy once, and Roll20 is honestly just one that everyone has and has a lot of support for it because it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
If I had more money, I might also add in Pro Fantasy.
Oh yeah. I think that's what.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called too. But
yeah.
No.
So.
Fantasy Grounds, that's the one. Pro Fantasy.
Pro Fantasy Grounds. Yes. Now you've said it. Now my brain also is like, I'm like Pro Fantasy. I don't remember that one. Am I forgetting one?
Yeah, Pro Fantasy I think is something else that I've used before. I think it's more of a map making tool. With that being said, though, yeah, Fantasy Grounds I like, but the issue I have with it is just how expensive it is. You basically have to buy everything you want to use.
I don't know if we have a date for the beta. I don't think we do. But again, like, with them rolling out and testing the alpha, it's the learning these things, they're doing experiments with it, developing stuff. So we'll see how this all works for, combining the two of them. It's improving tools, they bought Demiplane. They're attempting to integrate it properly with their system and make things, better.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a couple more stories to talk about. Let's talk about Shadowrun 6e and an interesting book. I think I've been talking a few about a few of these Shadowrun books because they have had a few interesting ones lately. This one is like combat. I'm like, haven't you been out long enough that you shouldn't need a combat book, or are you like just adding new options for combat, or like things like that? I'm curious here. It's one of those things that I think, because reflecting on Shadowrun 6e, it's a little too simple in a lot of ways. They went a little too far. Shadowrun's a complex mess, and they simplified it too much in 6e, I feel like, in a lot of ways. That there are some issues.
So
maybe this is fixing some of that. Adding a little bit of that.
There's two ways to go. So, I've seen this kind of thing in a lot of books. There's basically two ways this could go. One, it's more generally weapons and options. So like, might also include things like how to do like martial arts in this, if you want to include something like that. The other option is literally advanced combat rules. I don't like, even though it says advanced combat rules, it may just be weaponry expansions and that kind of stuff. But the advanced combat rules is also an option. I've seen like Traveler does this, where they separate out their Traveler, Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition does this, where they separate out their advanced combat rules from like their normal combat rules, and they put it in a separate book, because it's basically just do you want to keep track of things like fire suppression, how much noise and flash your guns make, like almost like wargaming types of stuff. It also could be them just fixing their combat if it's terrible. I don't know. I haven't actually run Shadowrun, or I've seen Shadowrun 6e. So
it's been a really long time since I dove into the rules of 6e, but like they aren't bad necessarily. It just feels like for the complexity that a lot of the basic ideas in Shadowrun require, it felt too simple. Is kind of what I can say about it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately, because of the way that a lot of the lore, abilities, things are set up, you need a little bit of complexity. It's if you look at Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk is still got a little bit of complexity in like weapon builds, equipment builds, cyberware, all that kind of stuff, adds a level of complexity to the system. The mechanics are where the easy part can be, but because it's just that, there isn't a large need for multiple layers of complexity. Yeah, they also have a hacking system, which adds another layer, but Shadowrun suffers from also a hacking system, also a magic system, also an astral plane that's part of that magic system. So, like, they layered a lot more stuff on top of it that makes it much more of a mess, I feel. in Shadowrun.
Yeah.
So, boiling that down is not necessarily a bad idea. I feel like from 1st to 5th edition, they just did that. They slowly, like, weeded out some of the problems and simplified things in a lot of ways. I do understand their feelings that maybe they weren't enough steps, that it was too slow of a process, so they wanted a bigger jump. But I feel like it's sort of like, there's a good balance there that they kind of overstepped. But maybe this brings back some of that stuff and, like, would fix it. I don't know. You know, it's kind of one of those reasons that I've still been... Again, I haven't read up on 6e in a while, so, like, I am rusty on remembering all the details on that one. I've looked into stuff with 5e much more recently, so I remember that better. You know.
Yeah.
Though, again, like, I could also, like, if you asked me to, like, tell you about, like, some of the weird mechanical stuff from, like, 3rd or earlier, I really wouldn't say that. 4th is easy because it's just 4th and 5th edition are very close to each other. So there's just very little difference between them. It's some pretty simple stuff. So that's why, like, I'm like, the older ones also, like, I remember certain shits about it because it was annoying, but yeah. So yeah, okay. I'm still a big fan of Shadowrun. I'm glad that we're getting a lot of new books from it, from Catalyst. They weren't talking a lot about books, or they wouldn't have a lot of, like, big books coming out, so, you know, they were quiet for a little while there. Maybe they're just cooking. We're working on some, like, battle type stuff. Maybe that's what
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to that. Or that. I forgot to hit the
Yeah, the
image.
slideshow.
That's me being forgetful. Anyway, I like Tokaido. I like the game. I played it. We're getting a new edition of it. Stonemason Games had basically gotten the rights to it. I don't know. I do not know the story behind them getting the rights for it. I'm just going to say that from FunForge. You know, there's a storyline that happened back in October. But basically what they're doing is they're doing a new version of the game that will have a little bit of updates, a little bit of, like, clarification on certain cards and stuff, better icons. And the big thing is they're also going to include a solo mode for it. And what they are doing, though, is at least if you want to play the solo mode, they will sell it as a separate thing also, that if you're playing with an older version of the game, you can just buy the solo mode. If you want to do that, you know. It's like, oh, you know, I want to try the solo mode, I don't want to buy an entirely new version of the game, I can do that. And other than that, it's just a new addition to the game. I'm glad it's out.
Yeah.
You know. Again, this is a very fun one. I do recommend you try that.
I do not remember what Tokaido is.
The basic long story short of it is I can't remember where you're going to, but it's in Japan, and you're basically walking along this road, going on a kind of, like, vacation/pilgrimage and stuff like that, and visiting places. And it's be the most relaxed person along this journey kind of thing, you know. So, yeah. It's an interesting way to do it. I do enjoy it.
Okay, I've definitely seen it before, but I don't remember.
I physically own it. I think I've played through it in Tabletop Sim once. Let's do it again. It's fun. Alright. And finally, our last main topic today is, because I'm a big Godzilla and Kaiju fan, we have more details on the Godzilla card game that's going to be coming out. I'm not going to lie. The details on this card game make me think of Yu-Gi-Oh! But then I remember, this is a Japanese card game. So...
Makes sense.
You know, it'll have 30 commons, 22 uncommons, 18 rares, 10 super rares, 6 rage cards. I guess, you know, Magic has the mythic rares, the super rares aren't too bad, but the rage cards are too. So it's going to have, the first set will have 80 cards and the rage cards, apparently. The packs will be 7 cards with 12 booster packs on display for $54. So we got all these details about it. And it's going to be, the July release date will be announced at Gamma Expo this year, I guess, in 2025. So,
yeah.
It's supposed to be coming in July. So, you know. And players will take the role of either kaiju, giant monsters, or the army fighting against them. One of the sides. Yes. Construct decks are 54 cards, and color specific, so there's colors to it. Players can use up to 4 of any card. There'll be red, blue, and white cards in the first set, and they will have 2 starter decks, which is the Heisei series and Godzilla -1 based on it. And those fixed decks will be 60 cards. So it's kind of like with Magic in standard things, is they recommend a number of cards that you can kind of fluctuate. They come with the deck, a booster, rule sheet, playmat. And the starters will be $18. So we got a lot of prices on stuff and a lot of information about this, and I would hope it's successful. I'm an old I just love giant monsters, kaiju kind of things. You know, I've always been a fan of those things. Be it Godzilla, Gamera, or some things like I've enjoyed the latest MonsterVerse from here. Maybe it's not as good as some of the classics and kind of like some stuff, but and I was just a big giant monster fan. So I'm hoping for success here. Success. Who knows? Oh, sorry. Again, I keep. My brain's just fried today, apparently. It's one of those days. All right. Shall we dive into a deeper discussion topic for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. So I chose today, because this is one that I was kind of in the back burner of, talking about a little bit about playtests, quickstarts, and starters for TTRPGs. These are all different things, but do the same kind of thing usually. Allow you to test out and learn stuff. Again, playtests. That could be a playtest for the entire game. It could be playtest for mechanics. We've seen that for Unearthed Arcanas and stuff like that, and stuff like that. But maybe function
playtests. What?
Quickstarts and starters. Quickstarts would be like the free PDFs people offer, and stuff like that, where it
right. Okay, and then starters are like starter sets, which give you like a basic adventure and the base rules to play it.
Yeah. Again, they all do very similar things, but they all kind of work a little differently. I kind of say
no, they do. I know the difference now. My brain just had to I had to write them down, so my brain was like. Because you said them, and my brain just didn't process what they were.
Playtest. You can use a playtest to learn something if you want to dive into a game right away. But it is probably a little bit more for veteran players. A playtest is. It can work for it can work for beginners. Because again, you're all on the same foot.
Yeah, playtests tend to be free mainly because they're untested. Yeah. Those I understand. They make a lot of sense. There are some paid playtests. I've seen that once. I don't remember what the game was, but I've seen it.
I've seen it both be free and paid. I know Pathfinder did physical copies of their playtest. Sold.
But you can buy the Starfinder 2e playtest right now.
Yeah. Again, you could just also get the entire thing for free, but if you wanted to, you could also purchase it. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. So those make sense. There's actually a mechanical purpose for them. Quick starts and starters, I personally hate for reasons, but we can start with playtests if we have. So what are your thoughts on these? Are they worth it? Is there good? Where are we going with this?
I think the entire reason of talking about this is to kind of discuss what they are as a tool to possibly use for you, and to talk about the circumstances you could consider these things. I think that's why talking about playtests is a good starting point time, because playtests is the ones that are probably least likely for you to consider if you want to learn a game. It's there. Playtest is usually there for a veteran. You want to try out a new system that's coming out soon. You're seeing something like Starfinder 2nd Edition. Maybe you want to get into Starfinder. If you're new to role-playing games, I'm not going to lie, Starfinder's not a terrible place to start. I don't know if it's the best place to start. It depends on what you're looking for out of a role-playing game. It could be. That comes down to personal preference.
Yeah. I wouldn't say playtests fall into the same category as the other two, but there's still something you can use. It's a tool. Like if you don't care about having like the official version and needing to fix things on your own that might not be fully balanced, then just play with the playtest rules. That's an option if you're if you need to. I would say get the actual rules, support the people and stuff. But if you can't, and that's available to you, go ahead.
It's a place to start and to look into, because again, like, depending on when you're looking, that could be what you're getting instead of something like a quick starter to put like that. And again, it's that kind of like free test the waters, because again, starters are not free, but they tend to be cost effective in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I find playtests to be a different category than the other two. But also, I can see why you're talking about them, because they're an avenue for getting into a game.
Yes. I do agree with you entirely. But I think because I'm using this as an avenue for getting into games and talking about that, that's where, like, it has to be addressed.
Yeah.
Or it should be addressed.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would say it's not uncommon for someone who's, like, running a game being like, oh, this new version's coming out, we're going to be using the playtest rules as, like, what they're gonna do, Yeah.
Quickstarts. These tend to be either very cheap or free. And they are basically some of the basic rules, maybe an example character, maybe a little bit of an example adventure, and a very, very simple character creation. It's like a lot of, like, partials of everything.
And this is why I hate them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk about this. So I've tried to use Quickstarts for a few times when, like, there's been a game that's like, oh, okay, I'll take a look at the Quickstart. I don't do that anymore. I literally just buy the game because I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just read the rules. It's like, here's how to not completely build a character for the game you're trying to play, not completely play. In fact, you're gonna actually, because of the missing information, when you go in and the GM actually asks you to do this thing, you're not gonna have a clue as what to do. And if you try and use the character that you built using the quick start rules, you're gonna need to fill in the gaps because it didn't give you all the information. I hate quick start rules.
I can sense that.
So, yeah, no. I really don't like quick start rules. Starters, I'm a lot less adamant against, but quick starts, I despise. They're basically almost in some ways worse than not having any information. I'd almost rather have a GM just walk me through how the game works than read a quick start. Because the quick starts tend to just not give enough to actually run the game. Like, okay, this is interesting. You give me what the dice roll system works, but then you don't give me what all the skills are, or you don't give me how to select a character. You give me, you don't show me how to select fully create a character. You just tell me the steps, but don't actually give me options for those steps. It's like,
yeah, I can definitely see that being a big, like, issue in this case. It's providing a little bit of something, but it's only like a hint of something in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's almost like a teaser. I'm just like, why? Like, I feel like it should be a tool. Like, I feel like quick starts just have this gap of, like, or like, try and fill this gap, which is much bigger than they sit at. Like, it really should be, I think quick starts really should be, well, I mean, this wouldn't be what they are, but, like, I mean, I guess if the GM and the players are using the quick start, maybe, but then you all have to fill in, and it's more confusing to have to fill in the gaps that are missing. So, like, it's just, like, quick starts just, I don't know, it's like, it tends to be harder to play your game, and I think would turn people away if they're trying to play off the quick start rules. If, like, even the GM is like, oh, let's test out this game. Oh, okay. This is getting really complicated because I don't know, like, okay, it doesn't list skills, so we'll just use these skills, Yeah,
it's, quick starts feel like they're there definitely to give people an idea of what rules are, but really using them as a source for your game, maybe that's not what you should do. You know, it's sort of like, yeah, maybe I know kind of what's going on now to a degree, but I'm not like deep diving at that, I guess is the way to kind of say it. It's
yeah, I mean, it's like I the first time I did, well, actually the first two times I did the Star Trek May the Fourth Be With You games, I used the quick start rules, and I was just like, I remember like when we like came up, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. That was not well explained. You know?
Again, it could be the difference between quick starts too for a degree, but yeah, like it almost feels like maybe what it's doing is it should kind of give you like a taste of what's going on to a degree, and a quick start really shouldn't be your like, we're going to use this to test things out or to learn a game system. This should be like a GM maybe takes it and reads through it, sees like, you know, is this something that'd be interesting to run? And then they can maybe judge whether it's usable or not. Because again, no two things are made alike. Certainly speaking, it's kind of the same with like, you know, playtests. Sometimes a playtest has more things in it than not. A quick start could be very well made, or it could be not.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about playtests is there is, depending on the playtest, you're either going to have a lot of missing rules, or it's going to be very comprehensive. You basically don't have in between. It depends on how they do the playtest. Yeah, so I mean, like for example, D&D's playtest material, they clearly, you know, kept a lot hidden. I mean, that's why the final product looked nothing at all like their playtests.
Yeah, they shared some stuff. You totally would enjoy it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not like we're gonna just show you a bunch of good ideas, and then either we implement none of them, or we, you know, the things or we add a few extra things which make them worse. Anyway, but yeah, quick starts.
Or the stuff you didn't playtest at all.
Yeah. But quick starts, I feel like there's definitely a way there's definitely a way to make a quick start that doesn't suck, but I haven't seen it yet.
I've read through some okay ones, but I haven't read through that many. So it's sort of like, okay.
I mean, I haven't read through a ton. I haven't read through a ton either. But that's just because everyone I've read through has disappointed me greatly.
That's unfortunate. It's a thing that's very easy to see. You know, that just things that like, well, that sucks. You know.
Yeah, but like generally, I think the idea of quick starts, because they often do have pre-made characters. So if you like plan to use those pre-made characters, run a one-shot, maybe you can get that to work. Because they generally explain the basics of the rules well enough.
Yeah.
But like basically, if you're gonna do more than a one-shot and you're not going to use those pre-made characters, quick starts become completely and utterly unusable.
Yeah, they don't really normally. Again, each is unique, and again,
it is true.
As I said, and also again, like price doesn't mean quality. As I said, because normally they're either free or pretty damn cheap, like a couple of bucks or something. At most expensive. So like, it might be a good thing for you as a perspective, rather than player in this case, but GM, to take a look and be like, is this something that interests me? Is it something I can use? You ask the questions about it and work off of that.
Yeah, because basically, I mean, I do remember it was also like, hey, you know, we're going to be doing this game. If you need help, there is a quick start. You know, that was you. So then I'm like, when I read the quick start, it wasn't helpful. So I'm just like, you know, it's just kind of like, yeah, definitely the GM needs to. I'm not blaming you for it. I'm just saying, like, definitely as the GM, you should review them before you point your players to them, because it can honestly do more harm than good if it's not a good one.
You know, it's one of those
and you're probably still going to have to explain a ton to your players after that, but it can give them the basics.
It's also the thing that I think, like, for me, I looked at Quick Start having known the rules, So, like, if there was something that felt like you felt was nebulous, I might not have seen it. It's sort of like I had a basis to read between the lines.
That's a good point. Because honestly, where I just felt like let's just go with the Star Trek one. The Star Trek one, the first edition, Modifius Star Trek, Quick Start. Like, it didn't really it basically terribly explained things like momentum and that kind of stuff. Like, it just really wasn't very clear, and like how that all worked. And I even think it left out one of like the stats. You know, it's like it just really wasn't very good.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say this. The book also really does explain momentum very well, a lot of those things. And it takes you a little while to realize how they work. First edition Star Trek
fair.
has some problems in the way they explain
That's
things.
fair.
That's one of those reasons that, like, I haven't read up on it fully in a while, but I do get the second edition book. You know, just so I can be like, we can do that instead. Yeah. So, and then our last group of this, of course, is the starter stuff, which is...
Yes.
Here's the thing. Starters are supposed to be just that. They're supposed to be basic rules. This is where we really get example characters, example adventures, a lot of little things, maybe some extra accessories that are okay.
Generally, starters have an adventure.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I can't actually say a lot because I've never actually played a starter, or even like I own one starter, and it's sitting in a box completely unopened. I've never. It was a Starfinder 1E starter that I literally have never played, or even looked at. I could go break it open and look at it, but yeah, no, I don't really have an opinion on these because, in my opinion, I always usually just like to read the rules, figure it out, and then run it. You know, with my own adventure.
Yeah. Again, like it comes down to your personal style a lot of ways.
Yeah.
If you want, like, you know, a starter is probably got it. It has uses. Okay, I'm going to tell you that. You, as a person running a game, if you're the person running the game, you get a starter, you get a quick start, you get something, you get a playtest to see what your interest in this game is sometimes.
No, 100%. I actually think but because it generally has a monetary value, you got to know you're already interested in it enough.
Yeah. I think by the time you get to the starter, that's when you have to have a little interest in that. Because the other ones are like, well, you know, maybe not.
Playtests tend to be too hard to find if you're new to something. You generally have to know a little bit more about how the game works and its culture to find those kinds of things, which is why it's hard to be this is a start, a way to start. Starters are actually advertised starters. If you're like really interested in, like, I mean, Momo talking about, I remember when like the Final Fantasy starter came out or whatever, and he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in this because I like Final Fantasy, so I'm gonna get the starter, and he thought it was a pretty good starter. So it's like, and I think he ran it with some friends or something. I don't remember. But I have to go back a few episodes for that. Few months of episodes. Anyway,
time flies.
Yeah. But I've heard good things. Lost Mines of Phandelver is part of a starter set. I've heard that's really good and was well done. I've heard only good things about starter sets, but I personally have never run or played one or even played in one. So
Lost Mines wasn't bad, but it had some very big issues with it because it basically it did a good job being a starter set. It did a terrible job of being a D&D adventure. Let me put it that way.
I've actually heard that it's actually a good D&D adventure.
I ran it, and the plot is really random. Like, it doesn't really have a plot. That, from what I ran. Like, it kind of does. It's like, you confront some goblins that are involved with what's going on, to... We have to go to this town, and there's like a evil group under a mansion. We have to go bother a dragon in a town somewhere. It has a lot of like weird side things, I think, is the issue of what I got to. Where you
Okay.
are really supposed to run through them all. And that's where my experience with it came, because we got to, like, the dragon level of things, and it fell apart, and we didn't even get to the actual Lost Mine, which is the technical last area you're supposed to go to. So, I think for Lost Mines, what I would say about it maybe is, like, it's too bloated, and also there's some things in there that aren't very balanced. Like, there's, your first level characters fight a bugbear. Bugbear gets the initiative. It does an extra 2d8 damage.
Yeah.
Character's going to drop. Hit someone and gets plus a bunch.
Yeah.
There are some things in there that are could use again. It has some very good moments on it. Like technically speaking, that the initial part of the story and the ending part of the story feel really great. There's some stuff in the middle that I feel like could use a little bit of work for telling the story. They're not necessarily bad, and a lot of the things that are in there are really great examples of it. It's that kind of thing of like it's shouldn't they do a remaster of it more recently?
I think they did, and maybe that's what I saw, because I saw some people play Lost Mines, and it was like actually really well done. I thought.
I know
so
that
maybe
the
maybe it
remaster.
was the remaster.
Yeah, like the original again. It's not terrible, but definitely speaking, it shows the age of very old. Like it shows being early 5th edition. Let me put it that way. You know.
Yeah, because like I mean, you mentioned a dragon, and like when I saw people play like Lost Mines as like a thing, like it was like a something I saw, and I'm like, I don't remember a dragon in there.
You go to like this town with a green dragon, look for something that's related to the entire quest line, and you have to like make it. You could fight it, but it's going to nuke you.
Running it just like left that part out or something. I don't know. So
such a big option.
I've heard good things about it though. That's why I'm like, I've heard it's a pretty good introduction. But yeah. Anyway, the starters do vary as well. You know, in quality. But yeah, and that's kind of the thing is I think it's good depending on like if you already want something and you want something that's prepared to be run. Because starters tend to include maps and stuff, or you know, you can generally even buy digital starters which have VTT assets sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
so
that starter might be good for you in this case, because if you are interested in the system, you like the rules as you've seen them, and let's say like you check a Quickstar or check a playtest beforehand, and you want to introduce players to it, especially if they are less experienced, and you want to make it something that you don't have to... Again, because even experienced GMs, learning to build an adventure in a new system still can be not always easy.
Honestly, it's actually one of the hardest parts of learning a new system is how to balance encounters and you know, and that kind of stuff, and like how to, you know, like honestly, that's hard.
Yep.
So it's nice to have some of that work taken away from you, so you can focus on running the game. And I think starters have a very good purpose. I think it's also a good way to introduce, because that's the thing. Like, if you want to try and sell it to your friends and your friends aren't wholly for it, a starter might be a better idea because it takes away a lot of the burden on you. As long as it's got a decent starter, you can generally have a much better time with it, because it's like, okay, well, we're just going to run this adventure then, this quick starter adventure. And then let's see if we want to continue from there. And then, you know, you can branch off into your own thing or something.
Yep.
So
got some good directions for that thing. Again, I think the 3 of these can function a similar kind of idea for tools, but they are definitely different beasts. Mm-hmm. But if you are getting in, want to try out a system, learn a system, you know, new or old for players, they are tools. They're tools that whoever your GM/DM should first look into, whoever's running the game, should be the first one to kind of like assess these. And then if a player should want to see these or learn about them, they can share. Or if you are a player, you know, the Quick Start, it's not a terrible place to start out with, but again, they might not be built the same, and it might not point you the full picture of the rules that you get from either the starter set or the actual book. Like, it would be good if you are going to use the Quick Start to take a look at it and talk with your person running the game afterwards and see what they say about it. And like if the additional answers, understanding things, because it might not express stuff properly. It might not give you the full picture in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it is true. Not all Quickstarts are created equal. The few I've read, because I've only looked over like 3. After that, I'm like, okay, I'm never doing this again because all of these have been trash. And maybe I just picked back the bad 3, but you know.
Very easily, it could have been that, which is ended up.
But I feel like Quickstarts in general are very hit or miss, and I feel like more often miss than hit. If I had to guess based off, you know. Because I've only looked over a few, but
it doesn't take a lot to kind of run into issues like that. You find a couple that are just pretty bad, and then kind of, I wouldn't say like ruins it for you, but it is a deterrent in a lot of ways. Yeah. When you just have a few like, this kind of sucks. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, anyway, I think that's good for the deeper discussion topic. That's kind of where I wanted to hit with this one. To talk about it. This is something I put on the a while ago, and I wanted to kind of share about it. We've got some good insight into using these. Because we do talk about them a lot of times. Oh, this is Kickstarter has a quick start. This game has a starter set. So it's good to kind of like understand where and when these are going to be used.
To be fair, I think part of the problem I have with quick starts is I think definitely most of the ones I've looked at are Modifius ones, and it's possible Modifius just doesn't do good quick starts.
I'm not going to lie, I don't think they've done good quick starts. Judging how they've had to slowly develop their 2D20 system and improve it, like Star Trek Adventures, the original, the first edition, it's pretty good. It has its issues. I'm really not going to lie about that. It has some, like, glaring, big in-your-face issues. I have a second edition now that improves a lot of stuff. But over the years, they've also learned and done stuff. Like, you know, by the time, if you talk to Momo about the Fallout 2D20 system, it's a lot improvements from Star Trek. It's another 2D20 system, so it has a similar core. But by now, they've learned a lot. You know, it's kind of like also like, you think about early Pathfinder versus later Pathfinder, first edition even, you know, there's a lot of differences. People learn stuff as they keep making things. So, yeah, I don't know about any of the current quick starts or anything like that, how, if they're much better or not. It could just be that they're not going to write quick starts too.
Yeah.
Anyway, alright. I want to talk about our week in gaming. Did you do anything well, we did something last Sunday. That's correct, we did. We had Joe's game.
Yes.
So, I'm not gonna lie, there are parts of Joe's game that, like, somehow I forget what's going on. Like, I guess my brain just checks out a little bit sometimes when I guess with the combat's pretty long. Because we had another long combat.
We did, but at least this one had a plot.
It did have a good plot. We ran into our opponent kind of group, I guess. Which, they made us their opponents. We really didn't want to fight them, but they keep trying to murder us. It doesn't go well.
Yeah. I thought it was fun that he coup de grace the ally to, you know, not leave a survivor to capture.
I like that also a lot. That was a pretty good one, finishing off the person so we didn't have someone as a prisoner. Though, again, like, it was interesting, to say the least, but again, like, I think it's like, I feel like the story Joe wanted to tell, combined with the material he was using, there are still some, like, things that I feel like are little bits of, like, problems with the storyline, but we're not bad. They're not, like, they're like little holes, they're not like massive holes, you know, but I feel like I've thought about some of the things and I'm like, there's little holes here that I'm like, it's kind of that thing of like, me as a storyteller, person that runs games, I have this nagging feeling about the hole in my brain, but I've been ignoring it, you know. Well.
Yeah, and I've been doing that as well. I actually like how Joe's been running combats, so I'm actually been happy as being a focus.
it's kind of like 50-50 for me, too, because it feels like we're having very big combats that, like... I know people are saying, like, oh, Bander's saving the day, but I'm like, I suffer through these combats. I am bad at them.
You do nothing until you do one crutch thing that turns the tide, and then we're like, okay, and then we finish it off.
I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm just getting lucky.
It doesn't matter. You're our bald man whose head we like to rub, you know?
I'm still like, I did not enjoy that combat. I enjoyed the story of that combat. It felt just like it felt like we had victory just because of a little bit of luck, which is not necessarily bad, but I've been feeling more and more like the combats are like that, and that's where I'm at. Like, when you have a big combat that's like a big finale, climactic combat, and, you know, it comes down to maybe a couple dice rolls, whether you have victory or not, that's not necessarily bad. I don't mind that. But, like, we've had 3 incredibly different combats in a row, and I think that's where it's wearing on me. You know, the pirates were very difficult. The spider was very difficult.
He has been copping out by doing, like, difficult combats in order to not have to prepare a bunch. And I feel like that's very apparent to me.
Yeah. So, I would like for us to have less difficult combats. I'm okay with combats that are a little difficult, but, like, when I have to use every last one of my spell slots in order for us to finish the battle, plus a bunch of resources that I have, which are finite... I do have finite resources that I've been using up. I can only clutch us so many times before I have 0. Honestly, and we don't get a lot more.
Yeah.
So, like, I've been feeling it for these last couple of combats. Hopefully, we'll get into a bunch of story stuff and it'll be great next time. But I'm like, I can only take so many of these things. But I still have fun, you know? It's still not overwhelming yet. You know, we did have victory. One of the people managed to get away through a portal that they had opened, which... When did the portal open? I think I missed that, like, when the portal was opening. Well, you know, it's, again, devil's in the details. Somehow, like, my brain shuts off a little bit, that I miss a few things here and there. I think maybe because, like, I was making sure my character was leveled at the beginning and stuff like that. And there's also, like, me, you know... I've had such crazy Sundays, you know, because now I'm aligned with having busy Sundays that I would normally have on the same day as Joe's game. So it's like, extra busy.
Yeah.
Great. Which is technically not our fault overall, but that's, you know, we go to see my grandmother every other week. You know, when one of the weeks we had car trouble, it pushes it off.
Yep, and then there's also just, like, for me, it's just, like, I actually am, like, it would be nice to have, like, one evening a week where I could kind of just chill, you know? Work is crazy, you know, right now, and just been like, I wish I could have that, and I only get it every other week right now. But I'm still fine with the commitment.
Again, I'm still having fun. It hasn't been too overwhelming for me. Again, like, it kind of sucks that it's, like, kind of matching up 2 days of my grandmother visit with, you know, Joe's game, which I usually go every other time. My dad goes every other week. So I go, like, once a month to see my grandmother, usually. Unless she's, like, as long as she's doing okay. She is right now, you know, there's no reason to be, like, concerned with, is she passing away soon or not. She's doing strong, at least at the moment, for being a 99-year-old, almost 100. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm also not, like, you know, holding out hope for her last a massive amount of time longer.
Yeah.
She's reached that age. Did anybody... I didn't do anything on Monday, did you?
No.
Same with Tuesday for me. I didn't do anything Tuesday.
Same.
Wednesday we were going to do my game, but unfortunately we got someone sick, and then, you know, that just put us off a little bit. I'm going to say here, I think I mentioned it to you before, but I'll say it here. I'm okay with this in the end because, like, there were some things that I hadn't necessarily prepped for, and I could prep for them now, which was, like, if we miss someone again, I can do some more, like, session zero-y stuff, you know, that I can kind of prepare. I didn't have any, I had, like, a little bit of session zero stuff and then the main plot, so it was, like, not nearly enough for a session, you know, like the, like, you know, introduction kind of stuff for characters, getting them into there. That I did not have nearly enough of. But now there's also some plot points that, you know, Momo has created through some, like, character building. You know, ooh, this is really nice, and I could use this, and this could be an improvement. Cool. So.
Yeah, and I decided to make a change just to keep something a little bit more consistent with my character. So.
Look, you know, a little bit of improvements and, like, things for another week. I'll take it. If it makes everything overall a little bit better, I'm okay with this. So I kind of like, you know?
And who knows, maybe my artist will get back to me with the Fugi Tech art next week.
I do think about putting together, like, and getting some, like, art and stuff too, because I put together some very loose art, like, the stuff for the game, so I have considered getting some art for it, but
art is expensive, especially if you want good art.
Yeah, like, I've also considered just spending, like, money on art for a series of adventures I thought about doing eventually in the future, which one of the things I wanted to do was do, like, small adventures set in different places in Galarian as a series that I'll eventually do. That'll be like, I'm using the setting, but I'm making my own custom adventures based around there. Oh, hey, we're going to this country, this town, doing something, you know? Then I can have it, because they're kind of interconnected to a degree, pay for, like, one kind of setup of, like, one overlay. Like, I might just be able to use the same overlay I'm doing now, because I'm just doing Foundry. My overlay's really simple. But, like, a top screen and, like, a break screen that I would pay for just that. And then I'm doing those. There's just a lot of places that you can do adventures in, with a lot of really great storylines. I can do that for, like, a long period of time. It's you know, this game is supposed to only be, like, between 20 and 25 sessions. It's what I'm aiming for. I know us. It could go worse, but I'm going to try to keep it down and cut things if I need to. Because I'm writing the stuff, I can simplify some things, you know, in case we're getting distracted in places.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm curious as to see how you're going to go. Hopefully, you know, I hope you don't try and get too set on the exactly 25 set. It's like, about, you know.
Having the previous games where I kind of gave estimations, I'm not sticking to it. I'm like, right now, I have an idea of where I want to go. If things go a little late, whatever, you know, I'll play around with it, you know.
Because I just find it's like, I don't know, I just was like a little worried when you first, like, now I feel like you're more cool about it, but I remember after Crimson Queen, you're like, okay, next time I'm gonna, like, stick really close to it. I'm like, I'm not sure that's the best, because you just got so tired of it, but I think that was honestly just a knee-jerk reaction to that adventure.
I think that's another reason that, like, the time spent here has been better, because I'm now a lot more like, look, you know, I'm going to try to keep things, like, in that half-year mark, but, like, we'll play it by ear, kind of like that.
Yeah.
You know, I have a pretty good, you know, basically story written for the first part of it, when I'm kind of, like, doing, like, 5 parts. The other 3-4 parts, I have outlines for. So, those are only outlines. I can change things in them. I know what I want to do in those parts, and I know where the story should be going, but also it's like I'm leaving them a little open, because I don't know what the hell you guys are going to do. So, if you guys do something crazy, I might have to change stuff, so I'm keeping it ready. You know? I'm keeping an outline of, like, it's kind of like that, here's a time frame of what's going to happen. You know, how are you going to affect it? We'll find out. Yeah. So, but that was kind of Wednesday. Did you do anything on Thursday?
No.
We did gaming on Friday. So if you want to check that out, meet 2 of us and Blaze streamed some Overcooked 2. That's what we do. We do some gaming on there. It was very fun. Definitely go check that out. That's not okay. I can always shout us out. Yeah. Friends. And then you had your game earlier today. How that?
I did. Pretty good. We were getting more and more into the spooky forest that is cursed. A few more extra encounters. We fought some. We had a tree almost fall on one of our boats. We had to figure out how to get around a waterfall. We fought, and when we were getting around that waterfall, I was pushing to like lower the boats down with rope over down the side, like walk away from it, lower them down the cliffside with rope, and then go back to the river. But everyone else decided to walk around the river or walk around the cliff to find another path down. So we had to carry these boats, and while we were doing that, we got attacked by some crazy gorillas and giant scorpions.
Pleasant.
Yep. And then we basically ended. We were, again, traveling along the river, and we see some skeletons off on the side. And so we got off the road, or we pulled up our boats up, looked at them, and it's like, oh wow, found this is kind of more of a conflict that was from a long time ago, because there was basically a conflict that created this place where like some druids were trying to stop like someone summoning a demon, but they failed. And like because the demon person came in, corrupted the ritual and turned the whole forest evil. And so we found remnants of that attack and that fight. The reason we're here though is because some druids went to cleanse the forest and died, and then one of them escaped and told us about it, and so that's why we're there to try and finish their job. But yeah, so this isn't those people, it's the older people. And we found and someone, used detect magic, found out there was magic in the river. And when someone, 3 of our party members dove down to try and get it, and water plants attacked, and that was the cliffhanger.
Ah! So greed led to possible death.
Yeah, especially since suffocation rules are pretty brutal.
It's 2nd edition you're playing. Everything is brutal.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I actually asked because, I forgot. A tree fell on one of our party members. And it was if I had to guess, based on like the amount of damage and the fact that he said they were D10s, and that he rolled low, I think it was like 5 D10s of damage. My character has 16 health.
Ow!
I didn't get hit, but the person who did took 20 points of damage.
Yes. Ow?
Yeah.
Just ow?
Yep.
Oof.
Yeah. So, ultimately, because basically, and suffocation rules apparently are... You can hold your breath for a number of rounds equal to like a third of your constitution score. And then after that, you have to make progressively harder death saves, or like saving throws versus death, or else you die.
Look, I just remember how like mean suffocation rules could be in 3rd edition. So I think AD&D is probably even more brutal. So I hear
the
that.
One, yeah,
well?
a third of your constitution. I think mine's like 16.
Oof.
Mine would be, so that'd be 5 rounds. Each round is 10 seconds in this in AD&D. No. Yes. Or is it a minute? Is it around a minute in AD&D? I don't remember. Definitely long. I think it's a minute. I think it's like actually like a minute of struggling and stuff. So honestly, it does seem kind of generous, but no, it's got to be 30 seconds, or it's got to be 10 seconds. I know it's longer than. No, but there's 6 rounds in a turn. Yeah, no, it's got to... I don't know. Or is there 10 rounds in a turn, and then it's 10... Oh, yeah, no, I think it is a minute. Anyway. So that is
Yes.
kind of generous, but at the same time, like that's the thing I always find like a lot of those calculations to be like, okay, you can either hold your breath, like it's in the game, you can either hold your breath for like 10 minutes or 10 seconds, and those are the way they calculate it, based, you know. And I'm like, huh. Most systems calculate it in one of those two ways, and I'm just like,
Yep. You're not going to have a good time. Don't worry about it.
So yeah, we'll find out what happens next time.
Yep. Sounds like a exciting sort of finale. Alright.
I also learned that illusions in that game are way better. I was like thinking way too small. Because I'm way too used to, you know, illusory image being a 5-foot square, you know, or whatever in newer editions. No, you have like a 200-foot square plus, you know, 10 feet per level.
Interesting.
In 2E, so, or in AD&D. So I'm like, okay, no, I can just make like an illusory wall, and you know.
Yep.
So.
All right. Shall we leave it there then?
Yeah.
That'll be a good place to move on. I think that was some interesting stuff. We'll probably have some more tabletop-related stories, more topics to dive into. But I hope everybody enjoyed today. Interesting stories, interesting topics. A lot of interesting news kind of going on this week. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out Wyrm. Get a chance to. We put a shout out here. Do your shout out live.
Yeah, I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter, Blue Sky, and kind of YouTube. Just search for DiamondWyrm on YouTube. I almost said BlueTube. Yeah. Tomorrow I'll be streaming at 10:30 a.m. PDD. Tomorrow Sunday, yeah. I also stream at other times, but I'll spare that this time. Anyway.
Yep. Cool. Myself, as Dracovin. Make sure to check out all my tabletop-related stuff that goes up on the YouTube side of things. If you're over on that YouTube side of things, please remember to like, subscribe, and bell over there. Just, you know, there's some comment to talk about all this episode, like what you like, all those kind of things. Otherwise, you know, please check it out. If you're doing this a lot, otherwise, you know, so good support there. If you're checking out stuff, though, with me over on Twitch, that's my tabletop-related content, where I record stuff. Fall of Avonswell, which hopefully will be starting this Wednesday at 8. Unless I have a problem, I'm going to be running. If I'm missing a player, I'll just do like a extended level session 0 stuff for like a couple hours. That won't be a full session, but at least I'm going to plan for some of that, you know, if another thing happens. Some deeper introductions for characters. Okay. I'll have that in the backup as like some extra stuff. Maybe little like side story things that, you know, won't be as necessary. So that's kind of where I'm going to go with that. So make sure to check that out. Only if I have a problem with canceling it. Hopefully not. Remember to check out this show next week at 6 if you can join us. Fridays, me and Wyrm will play some games on all of our respective channels. Please testing out streaming and joining us there too. Getting us a cadre of streaming folks. And yeah, social media, Discord, Blue Sky, Twitter, all the descriptions. Anyway, okay. I think that's everything. I never remember my outros very well. I try to. But, I'm just bad. Just bad. Anyway, thanks again, Wyrm, and I'm going to say to all of you out there who joined us today, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your Saturday, great rest of your weekend. Until the next time, you can join us, and we continue our talking adventures. I bid all of you out there a farewell.
Bye.